subservient to each other. Sheikh Salih Al-Fawzan, he comments upon all of this, and he says that these two parties, these two groups of people, we find that the reason behind all of this is that the hearts of both of these parties are attached to other than Allah, right? The ta'alluq, the true attachment, is not completely to Allah, it is to other than Allah Azza wa Jal. And if these people had relied upon Allah and made their heart's attachment only to Allah Azza wa Jal, then they would not be in the situation where they are captivated and enslaved to other than Allah. As we see in the Quran, وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. Whoever relies upon Allah, Allah will be sufficient for him. إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ. Indeed, Allah will reach His affair. He will reach, the affair. So he says, the believer, his heart is always attached to Allah Azza wa Jal. He obeys Allah, and he knows that if he obeys Allah and seeks to please Allah Azza wa Jal, then the other people will obey him. Right? This is how it works. If you seek to please Allah Azza wa Jal, you fear Him, you obey Him, you fulfill His commands, then a consequence of that is that Allah will make other people follow you. Right? So you don't seek to make the people follow you, you seek to follow the guidance of Allah Azza wa Jal, and Allah will then make people respect you and follow you and to listen to your speech and so on and so forth. So the believer, he says, his heart is always attached to Allah Azza wa Jal, and that's why we see in the hadith, a very important hadith in this context, the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, مَنِ الْتَمَسَ رِضَى اللَّهِ بِسَخَطِ النَّاسِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ وَأَرْضَى النَّاسَ عَنْهُ. Whoever seeks to please Allah at the expense of displeasing the people, then Allah will be pleased with him, and He will cause the people to be pleased with him as well. And he said, وَمَنِ الْتَمَسَ رِضَى النَّاسِ بِسَخَطِ اللَّهِ سَخَطَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَأَسْخَطَ عَلَيْهِ النَّاسِ. But whoever seeks to please the people at the expense of angering Allah, displeasing Allah, then Allah will be displeased with him, and He will make the people displeased with him as well. So this shows that a believer always seeks to please Allah Azza wa Jal, irrespective of whether it's going to displease the people or anger the people. He doesn't look at that, right? Because his heart is not attached to those people or to material, physical things, right? His pleasure and his anger isn't determined by other things. It's determined by what pleases and what displeases Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's why this type of person, it is impossible to enslave this type of person. You can't enslave this type of person. The one whose pleasure and his anger follows what Allah is pleased with and what angers Allah. Right? So this person cannot be corrupted. He cannot be bought. He cannot be, made a slave to his own desires. Like you see among the people in general, the common people, and likewise even the people like the politicians. You see that they can be quite easily bought because they have tastes, they have desires, they have weaknesses, they have whims. Their pleasure and displeasure is on the basis of these physical material things, so they can be very easily bought. Right? So a believer is not like this. A believer's heart is always attached to Allah Azza wa Jal, and for that reason his pleasure and his anger will always be for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, and he will not fear the blame of anybody. Having said this, the Shaykh does make an important clarification. He says that this doesn't mean that you can't get the help and assistance from other people. Right? So it doesn't mean that you just abandon everybody and, it doesn't mean that you can't get assistance and help from other people. Of course you can. But your heart is not attached to them, it is attached to Allah Azza wa Jal. So sometimes you can be in need of the assistance of other people, financially or in terms of other things, that's fine. As long as your heart is not attached to those things or to those people, then you can get the aid and the assistance and the support of other people. There's nothing wrong with this. What we are speaking of here is when the heart becomes attached to other than Allah, and your pleasure and your displeasure is determined by things other than Allah's pleasure and displeasure, by material things, by physical things, by things of that nature that we've been discussing. So after this,